Hello everybody and welcome to chapter 45 of the book of Bereishit as we continue to travel through Tanach. Chapter 45 has 28 verses and it's found in the Koren Sachs Chumash on page 304 and 305. As we see from the beginning of this chapter, Yosef can no longer hold back. He sends everyone else out of the room and reveals himself to his brothers. And you can almost picture the suspense in the room as the brothers don't know what he's going to say, and then he lets out this almighty, Ani Yosef, I am Joseph. And the brothers are stunned, and they're terrified, and they're ashamed. Yosef immediately reassures them that this was not ultimately their doing, but part of Hashem's plan to save lives. He urges them not to be distressed or consumed by guilt. Yosef asks them to bring Yaakov down to Egypt. He promises sustenance during the famine and embraces his brothers, especially Binyamin. Paro hears the news and supports the family's move, and the chapter ends with the brothers returning to Yaakov to tell him of the good news and to start getting him ready for his descent down to Egypt to see his son once again. With that introduction in mind, let us turn to chapter 45, verse 1. V'lo yachol Yosef lehisapek. Yosef could no longer control himself, l'chol hanitzavim alav, in the company of all his attendants, all those who were standing over him. Vayikra, and he cried out, Hotzi'u chol ish me'alai, have everyone leave my presence. V'lo amad ish ito b'hisvada Yosef elechav. So no one else was with Yosef when he revealed himself to his brothers. Verse 2, Vayitenes kolo bivchi, and he wept so loudly, Vayishma'u Mitzrayim. He was so loud that the Egyptians could hear him, or according to some translations, that all of Egypt could hear him. Vayishma Beis Paro, and Pharaoh's household heard. Verse 3, Vayoma Yosef Elechav, and Yosef said to his brothers, Ani Yosef, I am Yosef. Ha'od avi chai, is my father really still alive? And his brothers could not answer him, for they were so bewildered at his presence. Verse 4, Vayoma Yosef Elechav, and Yosef said to his brothers, Geshuna Elai, Vayigashu, come close to me, please. And they came close. And you will notice again the use of the language of Vayigash, this language of approaching, of coming close. Vayomer, and he said, Ani Yosef achichem, I am Yosef, your brother, Asher mechartem osi Mitzrayim, whom you sold to Egypt. And our rabbis point out that he is being very careful with how he says this. He has tried for so long to make sure that he doesn't embarrass or disgrace his brothers in front of the Egyptians. And so he only says this when they are close to him. Verse 5, Va'ata, now, al teatzvu, do not be distressed. V'al yichar be'einechem, ki mechartem osi heina, or angry with yourselves that you sold me here, ki lemichyash lochani Elohim lifnechem. For it was to be a provider, it was to save lives, that Hashem sent me here before you. Verse 6, ki zesh nasayim harav bekerev haaretz. For 2 years now there has been a famine in the land. V'od chamesh shanim asher ein charish v'katzir. And for another 5 years there will be no ploughing or reaping. Verse 7, Vayishlacheni Elohim lifneichem. So Hashem sent me ahead of you, lasum lachem she'eris ba'aretz, to ensure your survival in the land. Ulahachayos lachem lifleita gadola, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. Verse 8, Va'ata, and now, lo atem shlachtem osi heina. It was not you who sent me here. Ki ha'Elohim, but it was Hashem. Vayisimeni la'av leFaro. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, ula'adon l'chol beiso, and a lord to all of his household, u'moshel b'chol eretz Mitzrayim, and a ruler to the whole of Egypt. Verse 9, Maharu, hurry, va'alu elavi, and go back up to my father, va'amartem elav, and say to him, Ko amar bincha Yosef, this is what your son Yosef says, Somani Elohim la'adon l'chol Mitzrayim, Hashem has made me lord of all Egypt. Rada elai, al ta'amod, come down to me, and do not delay. Verse 10, V'yoshavta be'eretz Goshen, you will dwell in the land of Goshen. V'hayisa karov elai, and you will be close to me. Ata, you, uvanecha, your children, uvanei vanecha, your grandchildren, v'tsonecha, your flocks, uvakarcha, and your cattle, v'chol asher lach, and all that is yours. And Yosef is careful to tell the brothers and to Yaakov that they will dwell in the land of Goshen. They will not be amongst all of the main Egyptian capital city. They will be somewhere else. They will be at a distance. They will have their own space. They will be able to be themselves and look after themselves without being influenced by the Egyptian society. Verse 11, V'chilkalti osecha sham, I will provide for you there, ki od chamesh shanim ra'av, for there are still 5 years of famine still to come. Pen tivaresh atar v'esecha v'chol asher lach, otherwise you, your household, and all who belong to you will be destitute. Verse 12, V'hinei einechem ra'os, v'einei achi Binyamin, you and my brother Binyamin can see with your own eyes, ki fi hamadaber aleichem, that it is I who am speaking to you. Verse 13, V'gadatem la'avi, tell my father, es kol kavodi b'Mitzrayim, about all the honor I have accorded to me in Egypt, es kol asher isem, and all that you have seen, umihartem, and hurry, v'haradatem es avi hena, and bring my father here. Verse 14, Vayipol al tzavarei Binyamin achiv vayefk, then he threw his arms around his brother Binyamin's neck and wept. Uvinyamin bacha al tzavarav, and Binyamin wept on his neck. Verse 15, Vaynashek lechol echav, he then kissed all his brothers, Vayevk aleihem, and wept upon them. V'acharechein dibru echav ito, and it was after that his brothers could speak to him. Verse 16, V'hakol nishma beis paro, the news was heard in Pharaoh's palace, lemor, saying, Ba'u achei Yosef, Yosef's brothers have come. Vayitav be'enei Pharaoh uve'enei avadav, and it was pleasing in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants. Verse 17, Vayomer Paro el Yosef, Paro said to Yosef, Emo el achecha, say to your brothers, Zosasu, this is what you should do. Ta'anu es be'erachem, load your animals, uluchu va'u artsa Canaan, and go directly to the land of Canaan. Verse 18, Ukachu es avichem, take your father, or bring your father, ve'es batechem, and your households, your families, uva'u elai, and come to me, ve'etna lachem es tuv eretz Mitzrayim, I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, ve'ichlu es chelev haaretz, and you will eat the fat of the land. And it seems intentional that Pharaoh phrases his instructions like this. He hasn't mentioned that he is going to give them the land of Goshen. Perhaps Yosef was over-promising, although, as we will see, that is eventually where they will settle. Verse 19, Va'atatsu vesa zosasu, you are also instructed to do this. K'chu lachem me'eretz Mitzrayim agalos, take wagons from Egypt, letapachem, for your children, ve'linshechem, and for your wives, unesasem es avichem uvasem, and bring your father and come. Verse 20, Ve'einechem al tachos al kalechem, and do not trouble yourselves about your belongings, ki tuv kol eretz Mitzrayim lachem hu, for the best of all Egypt will be yours. Verse 21, Vayasu chen b'nei Yisrael, the sons of Yisrael did this, Vayiten lahem Yosef agalos al pi Paro, and Yosef gave them wagons as Paro had ordered, Vayiten lahem seder ladarech, and he gave them provisions for the journey. Verse 22, Lechulam nasan la'ish chalifos smalos, to each he gave new clothes, Ulevinyamin, and to Binyamin, nasan shlosh meos kesef v'chamesh chalifos smalos, he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 sets of clothes. Verse 23, Ula'aviv, and to his father, Shalach Kazos, he sent the following, Asara Chamorim, 10 donkeys, Nos'im mituv Mitzrayim, loaded with the best of Egypt, Ve'eser Asonos, Nosos bar, Valechem umazon la'aviv ladarech, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain, bread, and food for his father's journey. Verse 24, Vaishalach es echav vayelechu, he sent his brothers on their way, and they went. Vayomer aleim, and he said to them, Al tirgazu badarech, do not quarrel on the way. And our rabbis offer a couple of different explanations as to what this meant. Perhaps it meant do not argue with each other about who has ultimately been responsible for where things have led to, or it means do not engage in deep, meaningful conversations and therefore become distracted. Rather, he was instructing them to hurry back as quickly as possible, so that they would be able to bring Yaakov down as soon as possible also. Verse 25, Vaya'alu miMitzrayim, so they went up out of Egypt, Vayavo'u Eretz Canaan el Yaakov avihem, and they came to Eretz Canaan, to the land of Canaan, to Yaakov their father. And our rabbis point out that the reason why the verse mentions Canaan before Yaakov is because they went with a renewed sense of understanding that they were not going to be remaining in Canaan for all that long, and they were going to have to be moving their family down to Egypt. Verse 26, Vayagidu lo lemo, and they said to him, Od Yosef chai, Yosef is still alive, v'chihu moshel b'chol eretz Mitzrayim. In fact, he is ruler over all Egypt. Vayafag libo, His heart stood still. Ki lo ha'emin lahem, because he did not believe them. Verse 27, Vayidabru elav, and they said to him, Es kol divrei Yosef, everything that Yosef had said, Asher diber aleihem, that he had said to them. Vayar, and Yaakov saw, Es ha'galos, Asher sholach Yosef lasesoso. He saw the wagons that Yosef had sent to carry him back. Vatachi ruach Yaakov avihem. And Yaakov's spirit was restored. It was filled with a new life. It was revived. And our rabbis point out that this is because it was a coded message from Yosef that he sent these agalot, that he sent these wagons. It was a coded message to Yaakov that he had not forgotten what Yaakov had been teaching him all those years ago, that he was faithful to his identity as a son of Yaakov, as a Jew, and that he had not been compromised by being in Egypt all this time. Vayomer Yisrael, and Yisrael said, Rav od Yosef b'ni chai. How great! My son Yosef still lives. Elcha ve'er'enu b'terem amos. I shall go and see him before I die. And that brings us to the end of chapter 45. In chapter 46, we will read about Yaakov and his family descending down to Mitzrayim, where he will finally be reunited with Yosef. I look forward to learning that with you. In the meantime, have a wonderful and meaningful day.